last year of my 2 bachelor's degrees in person and try and build relationships with some of the other students that I could potentially go into grad school with. Through the friends that I've met here, I have made some pretty great contacts. It's just all kind of spider-webbed, farther than I could have ever believed. Just the one data analytics competition, the people that I meet there. In my predictive analytics class, we worked on a project for the whole semester that was all about creating a predictive model. I decided to go with a neural network type of model, and I knew immediately what I wanted my project to be based around. It was a real world problem that we worked on at Dakota Land, which was we wanted to predict the failure rates for certain jobs based on certain criteria. Based on what types of machines they go to, things like that. I was able to use a very large data set from Dakota Land that I, of course, cleaned up. But I was able to use that in the classroom and actually build a neural network model that, with about 78% accuracy, was able to predict when a job was going to turn bad, essentially, when it was going to produce bad parts. So they were very, very happy with that. One of the career goals that I have in the next few years is to definitely finish my bachelor's degree, for sure finish a master's degree, and then possibly go back into the workforce for another decade or two, applying what I've learned in this class to the workforce. I'm interested in applying advanced technology in the manufacturing industry, which is where I currently work, such as like artificial intelligence and machine learning, definitely robotics. After that, I definitely could see myself becoming an instructor either here at DSU or somewhere else. But I want to take what I've learned after a few decades in the industry and give it to like the next generation. Well, at DSU has definitely stood out from prior institutions that I've been at, especially in the workforce. I've gotten along much better here with students. Everyone here is very like-minded with me, at least in the East Hall. We're very driven towards the same objective. We all kind of have very similar goals and we kind of think alike, but we're just different enough where we can learn from each other as well. And the teachers here are extremely helpful. Like Dr. Behrens, for example, I can email him pretty much any time of day and he'll get back to me within a few hours or the next morning. So it's been a good transition. Definitely fit in better here.
Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Dr. Mark Spanier, who will introduce our panelists and facilitate the conversation. Mark is an associate professor and chair of the Emerging Technologies Department, and he teaches courses at both the undergraduate and graduate levels in discrete mathematics, cryptography, machine learning, and AI, and the foundations of computation. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Dean Bennett. And again, thanks to David Zhang for organizing this entire event. So it has come together very nicely. How were the molecular burgers? I still don't actually know how they're pronounced, but that was the attempt for the day. So anyway, welcome to our AI in the Workforce panel. So as was mentioned, we have a great panel with us today with a range of backgrounds. So I'm actually going to hand it over to them to just do a quick introduction, and then we'll jump into our discussion.
Good afternoon, everybody. Matt Paulson. I am a 2008 graduate of DSU, undergrad and graduate degree. My day job is I run a digital media company called MarketBeat, but we publish news about the stock market on the web, email, SMS, YouTube, all the channels. We use AI all the time at MarketBeat in a variety of different capacities, and happy to chat about it.
I'm Carla Santee, CEO and founder of Blend Interactive. We're a web design and development agency in Sioux Falls. Been doing this for 20 years, so been through a fair bit of change in my career. However, this latest shift with AI is certainly the biggest shift that we've ever experienced in web development. AI is changing how we work daily and what websites mean to people. So excited to get to share a little bit of that with you today, and thanks for having me.
All right, hey everyone. I know most of you, a lot of you, Austin O'Brien, Associate Professor of Computer Science, but for those who don't know me, just kind of helped build up our artificial intelligence programs with Mark here and several other faculty, so great to be here.
I am Casey Olivier. I'm an attorney in Sioux Falls. I have a business and litigation practice. We kind of cover the wide range of topics within the legal field. And then I have recently founded an AI innovation and cybersecurity vetting company for businesses that are looking to integrate AI into their daily practices.
My name is Tana Sokup, and I am the founder and CEO of a marketing agency downtown Sioux Falls. And we do create tailored marketing solutions for growth-focused companies. More specifically, we do web development, and we also run digital ads and things like that. So obviously AI touches almost every single thing that we do. So happy to be here.
Hi everybody, my name is David DeYoung. I'm the Dean of the College of Education and Human Performance here at DSU, and I love it. And I get the privilege of teaching a lot of teachers, principals, and superintendents around the state how to use AI to be more efficient.
Perfect, thank you. So just a bit of logistics. So obviously we have a large panel of some experts in the area. So our game plan will be, we'll throw out a couple of questions. We'll have one or two of them respond. If another one wants to chime in, you're totally welcome to as well. And we'll keep this process moving along. So we all know AI is changing how work gets done, but also opening up new frontiers for growth and creativity. So we're going to start off there. So the first question I have is, how is AI opening new opportunities in your field or industry? And I'm going to throw this one to Matt and David.
Yeah, we're seeing kind of AI really impact MarketBeat in two different ways. One, on the product side, with the stock market, there is more data than any one person could possibly consume. You have a very big stock like Tesla or NVIDIA, where there are hundreds of news stories published every day about these companies. A lot of duplicates where the New York Post, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal all publish the same story. And how do you figure out which kind of news items are actually impacting a stock? You can really just feed everything you have into an LLM and say, okay, stock price went up 5% today. Here's the 200 stories we scraped. Tell me why, and then summarize that in a way where investors would find it interesting. So we can do a lot of really neat stuff like that today with basic LLMs that are out there and some API calls. So our users have found that really interesting. To kind of take it to the next level, can AI pick out stocks that are going to outperform the market? And we've done a ton of experiments, and right now we have a stock picking contest at MarketBeat where it's, can the humans outbeat the LLM? So we had all of our employees give us their best stock pick for 6 months, and then we had a bunch of different LLMs do it, and a human's in first place, but then 2, 3, and 4 are all LLMs. So that's really interesting. Then on the productivity side, all of our developers are using some kind of AI coding tool. Our writers and editors are all using ChatGPT to edit. Our customer support team has basically shrunk in half because the AI can answer most of the questions without a person having to get involved, and it's really just shocking to see the productivity increases that are happening in just kind of normal kind of laptop keyboard jobs. Everyone's using it for everything, and it's been great for productivity.
Yeah, I'll dive in on how it's changing in education. An interesting stat is that 30% of K-12 teachers are using AI, and they're saving about 5 to 6 hours per week. So what's cool about that is when I go around and talk to teachers who may be resistant to starting to use AI, I can say, hey, let's figure out how to use AI to be more efficient with lesson plans, differentiating instruction for a wide range of students that you serve. And let's save time so that way we can spend more time on relationships with the students and with our peers. And that message is well received in education. So people are they see the why of why they should be using AI to be more efficient. And that's just fun to kind of ignite some of that fire across the state.
All right, so there's a lot of talk about AI and productivity, but at its core, it's about empowerment. So helping people do more of what they do best. So the next question I have is, what excites you most about how AI can empower people in their work? And I'm going to throw this one to Casey and Tana.
I think the thing that I'm seeing that's the most exciting is the rebalancing of power. What used to sit behind corporate walls is now at everyone's fingertips. But what really excites me about that empowerment, also as a lawyer, really gives me pause, because we have to look deeper than what is just at the surface. So what is slick and what is easy and what is streamlining our businesses is also creating inherent risk. And as we empower ourselves, we're missing necessarily some governance with guide rails and framework. We can find that in NIST, we can find that in different areas, looking to other countries, looking to California, and seeing how we can develop and build in matters of minutes and a lot of times seconds and predict what's going to happen. But then at the same time, are we looking deeper? Where's our data going? Where is our risk going as we empower ourselves? So while we push ourselves forward, at the same time, it's empowering to know we have to know what is controlling us. Because without knowing what is controlling you and the systems that are controlling your world, you don't have power. So true empowerment is learning the tools, learning what's behind these systems, and learning where they're coming from, who's powering them, who's developing them, who's deploying them in your business, who's controlling your customer base, who's controlling the news cycle, and we challenge what that power structure looks like, and that will inevitably turn into empowerment into ourselves.
Yes, and from a practical standpoint, within our marketing agency, it's actually very exciting to see what AI can do to help our employees be more creative on a daily basis. One very specific example of that is we use a project management software that automatically notifies the next person for reviews or for the next person who will take the project on to the next level. And that really eliminates a lot of back and forth within our agency so that we can run very efficiently. And at the end of the day, that just creates more time for us to be creative. And for me specifically, it gives me more time to spend time with our clients. And the more time we get to spend with our clients, the better we can do as a marketing agency because we understand them so well. So I really appreciate that about AI. And another thing too for new grads, coming into the workforce, a lot of the tools that we use are becoming easier to use because of the AI that's integrated into them. For example, when you're editing video, chopping it up into short clips is now a lot faster than it's ever been. Or doing certain editing things like removing glare from glasses, for example. You can do that with a click of a button now where it used to take a lot longer. So it's fun to see how new hires don't have to spend as much time learning some of these programs because AI has made them a lot easier to use. And there's a lot of other tools out there that weren't there before because AI has been used to create them entirely. And so it's really fun to get to experiment with those new programs as well.
I agree. I think it's remarkable to see how easy some of the tools are. I jokingly make fun of my mother a whole bunch, but she's not technologically savvy, but she is able to do quite a bit of it as well. So actually segues into our next question fairly nicely. So not every organization has a huge AI budget, but small teams can often be the most creative adopters. So how can organizations, as well as startups, harness AI to compete and innovate? So I'm going to hand this over to Carla and Matt.
I'll go first since I haven't gone yet, Matt. I think AI is really the great equalizer when it comes to small business and startups. They're able to do a lot more with a lot less, right? You can use AI to do a lot of the functions that a team member would do for you that you can't afford to hire yet necessarily. So you can prototype things quickly. You can pass things off to an agent and like a coworker, essentially. And so I think that element is really helpful for small business, but also small businesses are more agile. Like I still call myself a small business at 25, but we can pivot much more easily and adopt some of this new change more quickly than large organizations that have proven processes and lots of red tape that you need to go through to change methods. So I think specifically for startups and entrepreneurs and small business, this is a huge opportunity to kind of get ahead.
For startups who like really don't have any money, I started my business probably $100. That's like not, isn't a barrier anymore. It is amazing how cheap to access some of the AI tools that are out there are, and even if you have no money at all, you can download LM Studio to your desktop, run an open source model, and use AI and pay nothing for it. And that's really interesting. Like even on your phone, like you can use like locally AI, run a local AI model like on your smartphone, and kind of get some of the same stuff ChatGPT could for no money at all. Like the fact that we can access a supercomputer for $20 a month, like I would have killed for that when I was in college or like coming out of college. That's worth so much more than that. Really, like for a startup that's kind of trying to figure things out, you got to kind of like find the thing that works. Like what is the thing that's going to make me money? Like what can I sell that somebody's going to buy? And then like once you kind of have like kind of your proof of concept customer or product, service, whatever, then it's really like, okay, what are my workflows? Like what are the things that I have to do to deliver the thing that I'm selling? And then say, okay, can I use AI to make any parts of these faster, more efficient, better? And like that's really what you need to do. Like when ChatGPT 4 or GPT-4 first came out, there were people that were all on social media saying like, I'm going to start a startup with AI and GPT-4 is going to be my boss and I'm just going to do whatever it tells me. Like that doesn't work. You can't do that. AI is not that smart. But if you know what your workflows are, and then you can just kind of go through them systematically and say, okay, how can I use AI to like do this one task more effectively, and then go through all your tasks, and hopefully you find some significant productivity gains through that.
I guess a follow-up on that. So often I'll chat with various individuals, and one of the things that they're sometimes concerned about is just like the overwhelming choice that they have of just like, there's a billion different things that are out there. So how do you in the business sector like choose those things? Like which aspect are you going to go in? I think that's a person working in a university. I can go and take a couple of days to go play around with a new toy and I'm like, this doesn't work, or I'm not excited about that. But on the business aspect, what does that flow look like in terms of like new thing is unveiled, you're interested in it, versus you're actually going to implement it? I'll throw that to anybody that wants to maybe address that.
I think one of the things you have to look for is it trustworthy? Is it transparent? And what is the security behind what they're using? Anybody with a laptop can develop these tools. But you have to understand, as you're using them, when you put them on your devices, that is your data. And it is collected by somebody. And where is it going? So as these tools come out and as you're integrating them into your business, you have to know where is your data going and what is the security to the tool you're using. And are they having third-party verification? Are they transparent with their testing? Are they transparent with what they're doing with your data before you ever put your client information at risk? Because you're not innovating at that point, you're gambling.
All right, so we'll move over to the people aspect of it. So we're not working with just people anymore. So how is AI transforming collaboration between humans and technology? And I'll throw this to Austin and Carla.
Okay, yeah, so we've always looked at AI, at least in the last couple of years, really as tools, something that we can use and to help with our productivity and to finish things that were tedious and make them very quick to complete. But really what I kind of see them with a lot of people, especially people who aren't really in tech fields, are starting to see them as something as to bounce ideas off of and really kind of look for next steps and inspiration. I remember when I was starting as an intern, I worked at Daktronics up the road, and we had a mentor, and that was great. He was there for as much as he could be, but really to have some sort of AI to maybe just bounce off the little questions with and then come back so that I could then follow up with next steps
would have been amazing. So that's something that I would really have liked to see. And so, like I say, I think Carla even said something about as almost like a coworker and someone to help you out, to bounce ideas off of, is great. Also, not to get into David's aspect with education, but I was talking with some friends of mine who teach in Montana, and they're starting to introduce K-12 students using AI as part of the curriculum and building that up. So kind of having that introduced early, I think, is something that people are really wanting to get in front of. I think that'll be incredibly helpful for the next generation. And how the AI is going to actually be used, I think is going to be actually not just used, but how it's delivered, I think will be totally different. Because right now, the big thing with kids and screen time is that they're maybe too much screen time. So in the future, AI may not necessarily be just on a screen. It may be more auditory or something along those lines. And I think that is when it'll really open up and become far more natural to use than what we currently have.
I think one of the big differences with an agent in particular is, back in the day, if we needed an answer for something, we would go Google it and it would give you an array of answers. But now we're interacting and communicating and honestly creating a relationship with our agent of choice and saying, how many people say please and thank you when you ask for something? Like, that's not normal, right? But these agents learn, they learn who you are and what emotions you use. And it's a little bit scary when some people are getting dependent on them for even, I'm not a psychologist, but like emotional support, right? Like that's a whole different world that we're not going to get into today because I don't think we have any psychologists up here, but we are interacting with AI as though it is a human and your best friend or your assistant, and that's so different than the tools that we used in the past. And so it's really interesting to see how it will evolve. At our company, we don't have a specific tool that we tell our team to use. We want them to be comfortable and have a relationship with the one they like, I guess. But I feel like my ChatGPT agent knows how I write. Like it's learned everything about me, and I don't want to switch to Gemini because it's like starting to date again or something after being married. I don't know. But it's a whole new world as we essentially have these friends in our pockets with all the answers, and gosh, they're nice. Like they give such positive feedback. Like really anything I do is, oh, that's a great idea. I'm like, really? So I think we have to be careful of that when we're using tools like this too, is let's not get too overconfident. Ask the hard questions, like what am I missing? Tell me something I don't know about myself, which is scary when AI might actually point out something that is obvious that I may not have realized. So it's completely different how we use these in business and in our personal lives, and it's going to evolve quickly.
Have you ever asked it to describe you after you've had this interaction with them? Was it correct?
Yeah, I think we've all probably taken our turn, like asking it the prompt of the week, like, ooh, what did it say you were? And it's like, how in the world? That is me. And so it is bizarre in a way. I think some of us that are a little bit more, not social, but in the public and have done writing that's published, like obviously there's a lot of sources that they can kind of gather some of this from. But I'd be curious, like if you really haven't spent a lot of time online and have no data about yourself out there, what kind of results it would return.
All right, so innovation is moving fast, and trust matters. We've hit on that a little bit. So let's talk about how organizations can innovate responsibly. So the question I have is, how can organizations build a culture of responsible innovation around AI? And I'm going to hand this over to Casey and Tana, and anybody else who may want to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. In the marketing industry, obviously, it's always been important to pay attention to copyright laws and making sure that you're not copying other people's art and creative. So that really isn't something that's much different, even though AI tools do allow you to use the likenesses and the copyrighted material to create other things. But at the same time, we've never really been able to do that in the marketing industry. So I think it's just important to create those guidelines for employees and just for your team, so everybody knows, what is acceptable and what is not. And And I think too with AI, we're in a place where we get to decide what the future looks like. So it's also a matter of just being responsible and good stewards of this technology that we have.
Tana brings up a really interesting point, is who owns the materials that you're creating. And that's an issue of litigation that we're looking at across the United States. Copyright law is being tested. Publishers may not publish works that have had any AI integration because we don't know necessarily who owns that. So you could be innovating into your business and be hit with a lawsuit of someone saying, I now own part of what you produce and you have to pay me. So you have to be really careful as you're integrating with these tools. And to dovetail back into the development and the design, we look at what the EU is doing in their AI development as we're looking at the global AI economies and how they're integrating. The EU is the first place to say, hey, there is high risk here, and there has to be a high level of human oversight in certain areas. Whereas the United States has taken more of a strategic approach that's pushing towards deregulation and competitiveness. And we are tying that to our national security, we're tying that to our trade policy as we're looking at being a global dominance in the AI sphere. So then at the same time, you say, how is the United States going to put guardrails on what is being developed? And we see California is the first state that's jumping into AI regulation, but it's on a basis where your company has to be worth more than $500 million in revenue to even qualify for those guardrails. So as we're looking at our developers and we're deciding what we're going to innovate and what tools we're going to choose, we're going to look to developers that are developing guardrails that are trustworthy, that are transparent, and that have those ethical guidelines built in on the forefront rather than tacking it on the back end. Because as these tools move through jurisdictions, a company that can operate in the EU may not, or can operate in the United States, may not be able to operate in Europe. A company that is in California may have different regulations than South Dakota. So you also have to know what is their platform, how is it built, and how are they designing their security on the back end, and is it even compliant as you innovate that into your business with the risk that you take, who owns your business if you're using it?
Awesome. So we're going to switch over to the education aspect. So I'll change it up a little bit. So we have that AI is changing what we learn, how we learn, and the skills that will matter most. So the question I have is, what new roles and skill sets will thrive in the age of AI, and how can universities prepare students for them? So I'm going to force our two university folk to answer first, and then we'll have our business friends answer second. So we'll start it with David, and then come back to Austin and give it to the rest of the panel.
Great, thanks, Mark. Well, I think education has a pretty big opportunity and responsibility in how this plays out, how AI plays out in our society. You know, when I would get in front of a group of teachers and principals and superintendents just 2 years ago, I would say, all right, do you think that it is our responsibility as educators to teach students how to use technology and how to use AI appropriately? And I would say, with a show of hands, how many think it's our responsibility that they should be taught in school how to use AI? And 5% would raise their hand yes, and 95% was like, no way. There's no place in our schools for AI. So now, just this fall, it has almost totally changed when I get in front of groups of people the last couple of months compared to 2 years ago. 95% of people raise their hand and you're like, yep, we know that it's not going away, the genie's out of the bottle, and we need to teach students how to use it appropriately at an appropriate age. So I would argue this is the best time in the history of the world to be an educator. So if any of you want to become a teacher after this, come see me. I can get you hooked up with some classes to get you certified. But I think it's really important that we do it at an age-appropriate level, that we teach people through elementary, middle school, high school, and college. And one of the things that we're using is the human-in-the-loop framework. So when AI first came out, I had to learn from like the smartest people that I knew in the world. So I listened to, I'm not even kidding, 20 hours of President Griffith's podcasts and interviews. And one of the things that she was talking about was, starting when you're using AI appropriately, start by thinking as the human. Start as a human, and then learn which AI tool to use and how to use it. And then what it cranks back out to you, think as a human. Is that verifiable? Is that correct? And is that usable information that's coming back? And as humans, when we think, use AI and think, I think that framework's going to work for a long time, actually. So from the very onset, she was onto it. And I think that the more that we use that ourselves and model it, and the more we get our students at an age-appropriate level to use that framework, the better we'll be.
Nice. Yeah, and so as far as like skill sets, I think for students to be successful, first of all, obviously being able to, just use it to begin with, but then being confident to realize that when you get that output, that if you're going to use that you need to stand up with the ownership of turning in whatever that assignment is. That is, whatever you turn in, that is your responsibility. So being able to actually use that tool and then just say, what this is, I need to make sure that I'm actually learning from this and take some ownership into really looking at it to use some critical thinking to expand on it, go on to next steps. Not just take the information that you're given and then just give it out, but to actually be inquisitive about what's part of it. Is it, obviously right now the biggest thing is it actually correct, right? That's kind of the easy part right now. Being able to go back and look at that, but then also having that ability to then just go forward with it, go with the next steps, do research with that. And so that, I think, is where people are going to be most successful, when instead of just purely ingesting, it becomes more of a back and forth. And with that, you actually can expand and make bigger discoveries that you weren't looking at before. And then just remembering that it is yours at the end when you have to turn this in. So make sure that you own that. And so being responsible and checking everything is super important.
One thing I found with a lot of the technical stuff, especially programming, is that the core concepts are becoming much more important than like the actual syntax. So like I do most of my software development in C#, and that language has changed and evolved over the last 15 years to have more efficient ways to do things. And I learned C# 15 years ago, so much of my styles come from back in the day, right? But like the language models will kind of, you tell it what you want it to do, and it'll make suggestions like, okay, here's the nice modern way to do that. But you don't actually have to like learn the nice new modern way to do that, because it'll kind of do it for you. But you still have to know like the fundamentals of like, okay, here's what this function needs to do, and then you can see what the model makes, and then you're like, yep, that looks right or not. And you also really see this in some of the vibe coding tools. I've played with a bunch of them. And like they'll write code, but a lot of it is just very spaghetti, sloppy code, and like you really have to like go look at it and make sure it's like not going to expose your data. And really like, is this doing what it's supposed to do? Is it not going to leak data? Like, what is it actually doing here? So like, I feel like the critical thinking, the general understanding, kind of more of the logic type stuff is increasingly important, but like the specific syntax and like the intricacies of a specific programming language are just maybe a little bit less important than it used to be, because the model can do that for you.
Anyone else want to jump in on that before I move on? All right, so next up I got a question for all of you then. So in this world of rapidly evolving AI, for the rest of the year, so let's say for the next 6 months, are there any tools, trends, or innovations that you think everybody should try? And we'll just go down the line up here.
Yeah, from a general productivity standpoint, the two that I've gotten a lot of use out of recently that are maybe a little bit newer, one is Whisper Flow, but on a Windows PC, you just basically press the control button, the Windows button, and then you say what you want to have in your text box. It can be anything, Slack, email. And I do find that it's actually, quicker than typing, and I'm a guy that types 100 words a minute. But I found it to be very efficient. Like, if you normally it would just be easier if I called you and had a conversation about it. Like, you can kind of do that level of speed of communication now with voice to text using AI tools, and just had a lot of good results with WhisperFlow. The other one is Granola. Like, we've all like been in a Zoom call and the annoying like AI note taker joins the meeting. Like, nobody likes that, right? It's annoying. But now there's kind of a new generation of those things that just kind of live on your computer and don't need to join the meeting. One's built into Notion, and then the other kind of standalone one is Granola. But it just kind of lives on your computer, is kind of part of all your meetings with you. And then if you forget something later and like need to like go like, what did they say about this term in the contract? Because we just redid our Twilio contract because we sent out a bunch of SMS, and then like one of the points was like, okay, how much is the support contract going to cost? And they said it was going to be $10,000 a month, but then the contract said it was 8% of spend, and it'd be way more than $10,000 a month. So then we had to like go. I used Granola to like go check and see what we actually said about it in the meeting, and it's really helpful. So those are the two.
Yeah, to follow up on your point there, we have an email client called Spark, and I think it does the same thing, kind of listens in the background, but I know what you're thinking, like, yeah, then the end user doesn't know what you're recording, and so there is some legalese you have to kind of work through. I guess I would, instead of bringing up a specific tool, I don't know if this is a trend, but I think that if you haven't tried to research something using an agent, here's an example. My business partner's daughter needed a new car. And normally you would, in Sioux Falls, maybe check like the well-known like used car lots and look for a type of car that might be in your budget. But she specifically wanted a car that was like this size and had all-wheel drive and all these things. So you can essentially just search in an agent, and it's going to do all of the research. It's going to go scrape all those websites and return results. And then ultimately save you a ton of time and get you to maybe the top options that you would have taken a lot longer to find. I think as a web development company owner, that is changing how we build websites because people aren't going directly to your website anymore. Web traffic is down about 35%. Obviously, that's kind of an issue, especially with software licenses that charge you on page views. They're losing money. So the economics of all of this is certainly evolving and changing, but how we search for things and how we use these tools to just do all the legwork and research for us is actually making our lives much more efficient. For those of us that have websites, we just have to write content differently and make sure that our site is getting scraped and we're providing the right information to show up in those searches and that research. So it's certainly evolving how we search for things, how we research things, how you plan your next trip. I think we're not too far away from all of the agents talking to each other. Like, I'll ask my agent, let's plan a trip to Italy, and it will go talk to United Airlines agent and get the best flights that match the itinerary it's providing. It's like calling an actual travel agent back in the day. None of you have ever done that. I'm too old. But you used to have to like call someone, right? Thanks, Dave. You got me. You used to call someone, and they did all this work for you, and they made all the other calls to the other people involved with your trip. And now agents can do that. Like, we're getting to the point where you can purchase things in an agent. So rapidly evolving. Through the end of the year, I'm sure some of this will become reality. So just keep your eyes open and give it a try.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I spend so much time studying like the algorithms of AI. I don't really use a lot of AI tools outside of the ChatGPTs and LLMs. So I don't know if I have a lot of like, like this is your must-use tool. There's a lot of the fun ones I think most of us know, like Suno for fun and, making music and things like that. But, as far as, what can be good for, your everyday use is really just... I just use it, like you say, to do the Googling research. I think, like I say, I don't want to just repeat what Carla said, so I'm going to leave it there. But that's what I do. It's really kind of like the follow-up that helps me find the things that I just would not have been able to do just by myself, or would just taken so much more time. So I'll kind of leave it there just because I don't use too much just yet. So we'll get there.
I think we're seeing the development of AI tools increase so rapidly that it's hard, especially in the law. We're not using many of them due to security. The research is not there for legal research yet. It will be. That's coming tomorrow or the next day. We know that. So my advice is you're never going to outsmart it, but you need to learn what's behind it. You need to go under the surface and understand what it is you're using so that you ensure that you understand the output that's coming back to you, understanding what you're putting in and what you're getting back. And the one thing that we were discussing a little bit before is the humanity side of this. You need to learn yourself more than anything, because you are going to be in situations at some point in your time that is high pressure, high stress, and your ethics are going to be in question. And you need to know, how do I make a call, a tough decision, and still honor who I am and how ethical I am using these tools?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in using AI just to make you better at what you do. And one way that I do that in my role is I spend a lot of time in meetings with people. And so I have a little bit different take than Matt does on some of the AI note taking. I really appreciate it when I can spend time face to face with a client or potential client and not spend that time typing on my computer. I would prefer to have a note taker taking care of that for me so that I can spend more time responding to them and not taking notes throughout. I really appreciate too that it will give me tasks at the end of the meeting so that I can very quickly delegate those tasks to my team afterward and nothing gets lost, because it helps in the human error, I would say, in those interactions. So I appreciate that too. But yeah, at the end of the day, whatever you love to do, if you find a way to find an AI tool to make you better, I think that's the way to go and the best way to approach it.
So I'm a heavy chat user, and within Chat GPT, you can create your own GPTs. So I've been learning about those and creating specific GPTs that can save me time to be more efficient in my workflow. And it's been just fantastic. I mean, I'm a cheap Dutchman. I don't have internet or cable at my house, and we have 3 boys, but I couldn't probably function without the paid version of Chat anymore. So it's that good, and it saves me that much time as well. Also, with Notebook LM, I will use that. I'm a podcast learner. That's just one of the ways that I learn. So if I need to digest a policy, so right now I'm on a Board of Regents committee where we're discussing 3 policies and how we may or may not adjust some of those policies. So I'll take those public policies, I'll put them into Notebook LM, and I'll have Notebook LM create a podcast for me. I'll text it to myself and I'll listen to the podcast. So it's just a different way of learning rather than just straight reading things, because that works better for me and it's more efficient.
Awesome. All right, we'll wrap things up with one final question for all of you to answer. So we'll start down that way and work our way back. So the question is simply, what advice would you give to students or early career professionals about thriving in this AI-driven world?
Yeah, I'll start with that. I mean, I'll take another idea from President Griffiths. AI isn't just like its own little compartmentalized aspect of life anymore. It's going to impact every major, every job, personally and professionally. And I would say just start using it and come to sessions like this to learn from other people and learn with each other and learn how to use it to be more efficient.
I love that, being a lifelong learner. I also think in the creative space, AI can't dream, but you can, and you can use AI to help you dream better. And so we often, an example in our marketing agency where we use it to dream better and be more creative is when we do brand strategy sessions. We will start by just using ChatGPT and things like that to generate some ideas. And then we all shut our laptops and stand up at the whiteboard, and together we work and brainstorm. And so I think, yeah, just continuing to use them. Knowing what kind of programs are used in your industry is also important. So if you know that Adobe, InDesign, or different things like that need to be used in your career path, finding ways that AI is integrating into those programs is really great to start now, so that when you do start that first job or internship, you already know how those programs are working and utilizing AI.
I think the easiest thing is learning to use it to move forward rather than use it as a crutch. It's too easy to think, I could have it write this for me, it can cover that email for me, and to have it integrated into your life. But what happens when it fails? And it inevitably will. Everything does. We have failures all the time. And if you are so reliant on it that you can't pick up where it leaves off, you inevitably will, it'll be a huge detriment. So learning to be skeptical of it, use it to enhance what you do, but never fully rely on it.
Yeah, and that can go hand in hand with the idea of actually using it to help develop your critical thinking skills. Like a lot of it, the idea of this AI, we're just taking it and using it would erode that kind of aspect of your thinking. Is it really comes back to how you're using it. If you're just asking the question, copying, pasting, and running with it, absolutely. But being able to actually be confident enough to challenge the output and think about, is this actually correct, or could it be improved upon, or something along like that, I think they could actually be used as a tool in that way, because then you can actually find where it can be either improved on or corrected and things like that, and that gives you confidence as a person to take that and then maybe make a spin off of it to make something of your own that's more creative and better.
I think you students have something really unique about you that serves you well, and that's adaptability. You've been learning new things over the last several years. Certainly in the last 5 years, you've been through a lot of change. Not that the rest of us haven't, but some of us have been doing the same thing for a really long time and becoming experts at it. And now it doesn't matter anymore because we're all students too, trying to learn everything that's being announced tomorrow. Right? We are all having to adapt and learn very quickly. You guys are already in that mode. And it's really hard for, again, in web development, if you've done that for 20 years, you've become a lead or a senior and you have all of this, history and expertise. And now, ultimately, we're relearning a lot of what we do. So as students know that you can come in and you're already adaptable, you can come with new ideas. I don't think people are looking for perfection because we're all just trying to test, and also being able to discern what's right from wrong is a huge asset that you guys have been doing as students here at school.
I think it's really important to give yourself kind of a dedicated learning time for AI. For me, that's probably about an hour and a half a week on Saturday mornings before my kids are up, but if you hear about a new tool, like everything has a free trial these days. So, you hear somebody said granola, like, okay, I'm going to go install it and I'm going to see how it works and play with it. And like, is this something that I could use in my career? And like, obviously most of the stuff that you try isn't going to stick, but by playing with a new tool every week, you're really giving yourself an education as to like what is out there and what can drive value for me personally. But if you just hear stuff and then like never go test it out or try it out personally, you don't get the value from it.
Awesome, thanks very much. I saw a bunch of students taking a bunch of notes down, which is awesome to see. I think going back to David's comment, I think it's like the best time to be a student right now. It's as this world is evolving as quickly as it is, you get to be right in the middle of it as new tools and new things are emerging. It's one of my favorite things is being an educator is that students will bring new tools and new ideas to me because I don't always have a few extra hours in the week to go research various other ideas. So I want to thank the panel for sharing all of their insights. Hopefully the students were able to frantically write down a bunch of goodies that they can take with them. I'm going to hand it over to Provost Toy for a few concluding words.
I'm not sure about you, but I could sit here for another hour and listen to this group talk. That was really fantastic. Mark, thank you for moderating. Thank you so much, panelists, for being here, for sharing your wisdom. I really love that you all had different perspectives, quite different perspectives, and I think that's important for all of us to hear. Would you just join me in thanking our panelists? Thank you so much. President Griffiths has cast this vision. She set us on this trajectory to be the AI leading university in South Dakota and beyond South Dakota. And our faculty, our staff, our students, and our friends through events like this are really helping us to bring that vision to fruition. And I just want to thank you so much for coming today. Thank you. Thanks again to our panel. Dismissed.